Thank you so much, Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Finance. Our government has a plan to build Ontario together. And with every day that passes, we see more and more examples of how our plan is working. We're making life more affordable, we're building smarter government, and we're preparing people for jobs, Speaker. A large part of the work our government is doing is supported by our plan to create a more competitive business environment. Earlier this month, there was a number of initiatives outlined in the fall economic statement to this end. Could the minister please highlight our plan to create a more competitive business environment? Thank you, Speaker.
Great question.
Questions to the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member from Burlington. Last week, I spoke at the Ontario Securities Commission Dialogue Conference, and we shared some of the key elements of our plan to create a better business environment to create more jobs. In particular, our plan addresses the need to modernize the financial services sector, to reduce regulatory burden, foster competition, improve investor experience, and investor protection. The Securities Act is long overdue for a comprehensive review. In fact, the 5-year review cycle is 15 years out of date. The legislation needs to be modernized, and that's why we're establishing a Securities Modernization Task Force that will solicit input from stakeholders to inform the creation of a 21st century securities regulatory framework. We want to harness Ontario's potential, Mr. Speaker, Ontario's potential for investment and business so we can keep the good news about jobs growing here in Ontario.
The supplementary question.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for his answer, his continued dedication and hard work for the good people of Ontario. The work being done to improve Ontario's competitiveness is exciting. There is no doubt that we can make our province a top global destination to invest, work and create jobs. Our government's vision is becoming a reality, Speaker. The minister mentioned our government's capital market plan as an important part of our plan to create a more competitive business environment. Could the minister please inform the House about some of the work the Ontario Securities Commission has recently completed as part of our capital market plan? Thank you, Speaker.
Again, the Minister of Finance.
Thank you again to the member from Burlington. As she mentioned, the capital market plan is part of our plan to make sure that Ontario is the kind of location where people will invest. Earlier this year, the OSC undertook an unprecedented consultation regarding capital markets, Mr. Speaker. Nearly 70 comment letters were received, 750 participants in 3 roundtables talking about burden reduction, and I'm pleased to acknowledge the receipt of the OSC's report last week. 107 constructive recommendations, Mr. Speaker, recommendations that I will be reviewing about investor protection, about reducing the costs of investing in Ontario, about bringing us in to the 21st century from a regulatory perspective. Mr. Speaker, our government will work diligently, review the report's recommendations, and we thank the OSC for the detail and scope of their work. We look forward to continuing to work with the Securities Commission and other regulators to make sure that we continue on the path of job growth in this province, in the great province of Ontario.